So let's go ahead and get started with the pre-op diet. So just a little bit about me before we get started. So I have a bachelor's of science in nutrition and food science from the California State University of Chico. I'm proud to say I'm a third generation alumni, which is pretty cool to be able to say. I also completed a didactic program in dietetics from California State University of Chico. And then I decided I wanted to spread my wings and move somewhere else. So I moved across the country to New York, where I did a certificate of advanced studies at Syracuse University. And I love my time there, but I failed to realize that Syracuse is one of the top three snowiest cities in all of the United States. So after I finished my studies, I got on a plane, flew back to California, and this is where I belong in sunny California. But I also added to my email, and this is my direct phone number. So if, at any time during this whole process, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to call me, text me, email me. I'm here to help. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with the purpose of the pre-op diet, and then we'll actually get into the nitty-gritty of the pre-op diet. So the purpose is not only to lose weight, but it's to shrink your liver. So shrinking your liver will help the surgeons be able to have access to your stomach. So if you see in the diagram, your stomach is actually blocked by your liver. And so, you know, once you shrink your liver, it'll be a lot easier to have access to your stomach and make the surgery a lot easier. And then also it's good for starting with behavioral changes because, this is a lifelong change. And so we want to, start the good habits now. So your pre-op diet duration is depending on how high your BMI is. So if your BMI is less than 32, it'll be 2 days of clear liquids. BMI of 33 to 39, it'll be 1 week, so on and so forth, all the way till 8 weeks if you have a BMI of greater than 60. And so this is, the pre-op is just the phases where you start to learn healthier habits, focus on quality food sources, and ditching the processed and fatty foods. And then this will be when you learn, portion control. So the actual pre-op diet is, actually, if you guys mind, I'm gonna turn off this light. It's heating up my room and I'm getting a little hot in here. So the pre-op diet will consist mainly of lean protein. So you will have 2 to 3 meals with 4 to 6 ounces of lean protein. And this will come from chicken, ground beef, eggs, fish, salmon, lean steak, turkey, edamame, tofu, tuna. So you can see, not all lean protein comes from meat, but the bulk of it will come from meat. And I will say with chicken, make sure it is boneless, skinless chicken because chicken near the bone or chicken with skin is higher in fat. And then along with the protein, you'll be able to have vegetables on this diet. So good news for everyone that vegetables, you can have as many as you want as long as they're non-starchy vegetables. So that means no potato, no corn, no peas, no squash, and no pumpkin. But other than those 5, you can have as many vegetables as you want. You can have them raw, you can have them cooked. And we do have a recipe on our website for a weight loss magic soup. And I recommend making that at the beginning of the week and then, keeping it in your fridge, freeze it. And so you'll have, a meal on hand ready for, any days you don't feel like cooking or, you just need a little snack throughout the day. And then along with the protein and vegetables, you'll also be able to have 1 to 2 servings of healthy fats. And so this will come from oils, avocados, nuts, salad dressings, nut butters, seeds. And I will say with the salad dressings, it is always best to make your own. So if you just use a little bit of olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and lemon juice. But if you don't have the option of doing that or you're going to eat out, most restaurants do provide a balsamic vinaigrette as salad dressing, so I definitely recommend choosing that as your option. And then things to avoid. So with the pre-op diet, we really want to avoid all starches. So this includes breads, pastas, rice, tortillas, baked goods. like the starchy vegetables that I mentioned earlier. Really want to avoid those, as well as we want to limit our fruit because fruit is so naturally high in sugar that we actually want to limit the amount. So you can either have a half a cup of berries, a half of a banana, or one whole apple a day. So you can choose one of those options, not all three. And piggybacking off of that with the sugar, I will mention right now, it's super important to start reading food labels and getting into the habit of that because sugar is very sneaky, I would say, and is in a lot of foods that you wouldn't typically think sugar is in, like seasonings and rubs and sauces and all that stuff. So, really be on the lookout and start to read labels. Also, you want to avoid processed meats like bacon, salami, bologna, sausage, beef jerky. And I will say too, if you are going to get any type of lunch meat, I would suggest going to the actual deli counter of a grocery store instead of buying the prepackaged stuff. And then, avoid potatoes, corns, peas, popcorn. I've already mentioned that. Dairy is another really big one to avoid. Milk, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese. This is also something that you'll have to be on the lookout in food labels because it is in foods that you wouldn't typically think dairy is in. So be on the lookout for that. Also, you want to avoid alcohol. This is, as some of you may know, alcohol affects the liver and actually enlarges the liver, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do with this diet. So definitely avoid alcohol, avoid any drinks containing sugars. And this is a really big one. I want everybody to pay attention. You must discontinue all alcoholic beverages, caffeine, vitamins, and supplements 2 weeks before surgery. And this does not matter how long your pre-op diet is. Everybody will need to discontinue this 2 weeks before your surgery date. Okay, 2 weeks. All right. And then, like I said this before, and you're going to hear me say this a million times, this is a lifestyle change. This isn't just a quick fix, it's a lifestyle change. So the habits we implement early on will really set us up for when, after the surgery. So anything you do now is going to make it easier. So start practicing the 30-minute rule now, and your future self will thank you for this. So I really want you to stop drinking 30 minutes before your meals and 30 minutes after your meals. And so this is just to prevent you from overloading your stomach. And if you eat too much, especially after bariatric surgery, you're more likely to get stomach cramping, abdominal cramping, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So this is something I really want everybody to avoid. And I really want everybody to start implementing into their habits now. Okay, so I'm gonna do my first poll. So let me see if I can do this. Let me see, poll. So I have two questions that I want you guys to answer. Let me see. I'll give you about like 30 seconds to a minute to answer. Go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So everybody who answered got both of them correct. So bacon is not a good source of lean protein. It is very high in fat and very processed. So please stay away from bacon. And tuna is a great source of lean protein. And I'm glad everybody got the second one right because I really wanted to nail this into your heads that you should stop caffeine, vitamins, supplements, and alcohol 2 weeks before before your surgery date. So I'm glad everyone got those right. I'll stop sharing those results. All right. So I also just included a few recipes. I'm not gonna, go in depth with these, but I do just want to kind of highlight that although there's a lot of restrictions with these diets, with the pre-op diet especially, there's a lot of restrictions, but you're still able to have good food and food that you enjoy, and you're able to cook. And so these are two recipes I really like: the roasted salmon avocado salsa and the cucumber Greek salad. If you'd like, you can pull out your phones, take a picture of this. Or after, feel free to email me, text me, asking me for this, and I'll just send it to you. So these are two really great ones. I highly recommend them. And then protein supplements. So by the end of this whole journey, every one of you is going to be an expert on, on protein products. So during the pre-op diet, it's really important that you have 1 to 2 protein shakes a day, and that'll be layered in between your meals. So you have breakfast, a protein shake, lunch, a protein shake, dinner. And this is really helpful because number one, it will get you in the habit of drinking protein shakes, because after surgery, you will heavily rely on protein shakes to get your protein as well as hydration. And then it's also important too, because it will help you stay satiated throughout the day. And so it'll help you not overeat during mealtime, because we also are trying to practice smaller portions at this time. So then it's easier during post-op. So the two rules that we have with protein supplements is a minimum of 20 grams of protein and less than 5 grams of sugar. And good news for everyone, a lot of brands follow these rules as well, or fall into them. So there's tons of options out there, tons of options. So you can, either have a pre-made shake or a protein powder. If you're gonna have a pre-made shake, I really recommend Fairlife and Premier Protein. Those are two really good brands, and they do contain dairy, but the way they are processed, they actually remove the portion of like the dairy that affects your liver. So those ones are cleared and approved. Um, and also protein powders, if you're gonna make them, you can either mix them with water or unsweetened almond milk or unsweetened coconut milk. And then here's just an example of all, there's so many different protein powders out there. Again, the rule: 20 grams or higher of protein, less than 5 grams of sugar. And I recommend whey isolate versus whey concentrate, because it's just easier to absorb. But there's tons of different products that you can get protein from. Like you can see there's one that comes from pea protein, there's one that comes from egg, there's whey products out there. So there's really a ton. And this is also something too, if you're struggling to read the nutrition label, feel free to text me a picture of it or email me a picture, and I can tell you if it's approved or not. Okay, so now going on to the clear liquid diet. So everybody before surgery will have to do a 2-day clear liquid prior to surgery. So this includes water, clear broths or bouillons like chicken, beef, or vegetable. And I know some broth packets will have, like herbs or spices in it. I know some of them have like little flakes of parsley. Be sure to not drink those. Like we really need to have them be clear liquids. So then we also can have sugar-free crystallite or anything that you can mix into water. I know they even have like little what are they called? Liquid, like the Mios that you can squeeze into your water. As long as it's sugar-free, those are good to go. You can have unsweetened herbal tea, sugar-free Jello, sugar-free popsicles. And I really suggest protein waters. So Protein 20 is a really great brand, because you will not be able to have protein shakes on the clear liquid diet. That is a big thing. No protein shakes, but you can have protein waters. So Protein 20 makes a really good protein water. They also, I found on Amazon, they sell them in individual packets that you can add to water. So those are really great for travel days. And there are a few broth brands out there that make the individual serving packets as well. So those are really great for travel days. I recommend bringing those and an empty reusable water bottle, and you're good to go. Okay, so since I'm the nutritionist and not a doctor, I can answer all questions about the diet, all questions about nutrition, vitamins, supplements. But when it comes to medications or the actual surgery itself for any surgical questions, wound healing, that kind of stuff, these will be questions that you will reach out to Jen for. She is our surgeon liaison and she is a medical doctor. So here's her email and here's her phone number. And if you end up losing this, again, always text me, reach out to me, and I can send this to you as well. Okay, here we are going to do another poll. Let me see if I can do this again. Wait. Okay. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to a minute to answer these ones. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share results. Good job, everybody. 100% on both questions. So let me see. So everybody answered correctly. No, you cannot have protein shakes on the clear liquid diet, only protein waters. And then with the protein shakes, everyone got the second question right. You need at least 20 grams of protein and less than 5 grams of sugar. So good job, everybody. Let's go ahead and move on. So I'm actually going to hold off on questions for this moment because I do want to touch on vitamins because they are such an important part of the post-op diet that I do just want to kind of, do a little bit of educating on the vitamins just to kind of get you ready so it's not a big shock after the surgery. So, like I said, very important to discontinue all vitamins 2 weeks prior to surgery. And then you will begin bariatric specific vitamins 14 days after your surgery. So, what are the the bariatric specific vitamins? Oh, actually, hold on. I'll just talk about vitamins. So the importance of vitamins, they are basically the building blocks of everything, of every function that your body does runs on vitamins. So, and it comes from all different types of foods, and you can get it through supplements or with vitamins. Um, and it's really important to have them because if we are not getting a consistent intake of our vitamins, it can cause a deficiency, and deficiency can lead to all different types of problems, muscle loss, blurred vision, nerve damage, cracked and dry skin. Just I've only listed a few of them, but the list goes on and on and on, with vitamin deficiency. So it's really important to stay on top of your vitamins. So the bariatric specific vitamins, because your needs are going to be different than an average person because you have changed the way your body will, absorb and process vitamins. So you will need to take a bariatric specific multivitamin with iron, and then you will also need to take a calcium citrate. So the multivitamin, as you can see on this table that I have, these will all be within the multivitamin. So you need to get 12 milligrams of thiamine, 15 milligrams of zinc, 75 milligrams or mcgs of vitamin D, 18 milligrams of iron with vitamin C for men, 45 to 60 milligrams of iron with vitamin C for women, and then 500 to 1000 mcgs of vitamin B. And then the calcium citrate with vitamin D will be consumed separately from the multivitamin because the iron and calcium do kind of fight for absorption. So if you have them at the same time, they both won't absorb properly. And so we have to space that out. And so, quick little plug, we do make our own vitamins. And so we make it really easy too. I've gone ahead and bundled them together so you can just buy both of them at the same time. So all you need again is a multivitamin, bariatric specific multivitamin with iron and a calcium citrate soft chew. And you will start those 14 days after your surgery. So I always say it's better to be prepared and buy them beforehand. So the 14 days doesn't hit and oh no, you don't have vitamins and you're starting off on the wrong foot. So definitely buy them beforehand. And then a few more little things before I get to the questions. We do have a podcast hosted by Sarita and Rena, who are past patients. And it's really great because you can get their perspective and experience on what it's like having surgery at NBC and, years down the line, what it is like. So that, some examples of the episodes we have are the pre-op, post-op diet, exercise after weight loss surgery. And you can find this on YouTube. I really think it's a great resource. Speaking of resources, we have a ton. So if you go on our website, we have tons of blog posts of all different topics, as well as YouTube videos, Facebook, Instagram, TikToks. We have tons of Facebook pages you can join. We really do have a lot of resources. So there's a lot of information out there. But with that being said, I'm done giving my spiel about the pre-op diet. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to put them in the chat and I can answer them. Let me see, let me pull up the chat. I don't see any questions coming in, but feel free. Oh, okay, I do see a question. What time of day should I take my multivitamin and calcium? Okay, this is a great question. So I always suggest taking the multivitamin first with your breakfast so you have something in your stomach because, sometimes it might be a little hard to digest. So definitely take the multivitamin with your breakfast. And then throughout the day, you'll take calcium. So I'd say, mid-morning, you'll have a dose of calcium, lunch, a dose of calcium, and then dinner time, a dose of calcium. So you will space it out just because with the calcium, you can only absorb so much at a time. So we really want you to get the max amount of absorption. So that's why we space it out. Can you order the vitamins and get them sent to New Zealand? So unfortunately, right now, you're only able to get the vitamins in the US. So for my New Zealand patients and my Canada patients, we do have alternatives that, if you reach out to me, I can send you an email or a text with the alternatives that I found. So maybe don't take the calcium until an hour after the multivitamin. Yes, definitely. So wait at least 2 hours. That's the golden rule, 2 hours from the multivitamin to take the calcium. You're welcome, Victoria. All right, I'll just wait. Let me see. Recommendations about getting liquids in on travel days. So I really recommend, like I said, bringing a reusable water bottle. So then you can just take that through TSA with no problem. And most airports have water bottle refill stations that or drinking fountains that you could just fill up. So you could fill up with water and then add whatever flavorings you want to, as well as on the airplane, they will most likely be able to provide you with hot water so you can have broth if that's what you want, or you know, waters or anything like that. And then at the hotel or the hospital, depending on where you stay, they both do provide sugar-free jello, sugar-free popsicles, broth, water, anything like that. Are OXO cubes okay to use? I'm not familiar with those. I'm assuming they are some sort of bouillon cube or broth. If you text me a picture of them, I can get back to you and I can let you know if those are approved or not. Will the video be recorded and to rewatch later? I missed the beginning. Yes, I did record this whole entire thing. So I'm pretty sure it will be posted either on YouTube or on Facebook. So you'll be able to watch the beginning part. Is there a salt content level you should look out for in the broth? So we don't have any specific parameters of sodium. I would say if you're going to be heavily reliant on broth for your fluids, I will say dilute it down because some bouillons versus broths, bouillons are more likely to be higher in sodium. So I'd say definitely, keep hydrated with other things besides just the broths, but no, we don't have any specific parameters with sodium. Is there a bouillon brand you recommend? So I do recommend, I think it's called Bear and Bones. They're the, I think they make beef and chicken bone broth that come in the single serving packets. And I really recommend those. I've had them myself and I think they're delicious. I love them, even when you're not on a clear liquid diet. So I recommend those and you can buy them on Amazon. I'm pretty sure I've seen them in Costco as well. Those are two I recommend. And they're not high in sodium either, which is really nice. Just go back and see if I missed any questions. If I answer all the questions, if you have any more questions, send them in last minute before I end it. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'll go ahead and end this. So I will say thank you to everyone who came and listened. I really hope everybody learned at least something from this presentation. If you have any more questions that come up during this process, I know I've said this a million times and I will keep saying this a million times. Please reach out to me, text me, email me, call me. I am always here to help. I'm always here to answer questions. But other than that, I'll let everyone get back to the rest of their days. Thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, and good morning for the people in New Zealand. Bye everyone.